course of those earlier stops
Yes.
and through the course of your training?
Yes.
Okay. So you have no doubt that what you saw, the pipes were for marijuana or some other illegal or controlled substance?
Correct.
Through the course of the search, anything else of note that showed up?
There was a handgun, but it was after looking at it and examining it, it didn't seem to be operational and it was out of his reach.
Okay. After completing the search, what did you do?
So after completing the search, I ultimately issued a citation for the paraphernalia and for the suspended driver's license.
Okay.
And I issued warnings for the other 2 violations I talked about.
Okay. Prior to the stop, you saw Mr. Lyons operating the motor vehicle?
Correct. Yes.
He was the only person in the car?
Yes.
Where was he seated when you first approached the car?
In the driver's seat.
No further questions for this witness, Your Honor.
The court has a couple of follow-up questions, and then I'll give Mr. Lyons an opportunity to ask questions. Then later, if you want, you can testify.
Okay.
But it would be questions first. But I have a couple of follow-up questions. First, Trooper, the information you received on his suspended license status, what state did that come from and what information did you receive?
To my recollection, I believe it was out of Colorado. And it said it was suspended, and then upon investigating that a little further, I believe it was suspended for insurance reasons.
But it came back as suspended. You testified earlier there was some question as to how it was suspended.
Correct.
Okay. And then you talked about locating items of paraphernalia, and Mr. Davies offered some questions concerning that. But the items you located that you believe to have been paraphernalia, what illegal substance do you believe they may have been used for as paraphernalia?
Marijuana.
And what led you to that conclusion?
So, burnt marijuana residue. All these items were seized as evidence. So for specific, like what exactly they were, where they were found and everything, I would have to refer to that.
But your earlier testimony was that there were several pipes located in the vehicle?
Yes.
And are those the items you're referring to that you thought had burnt marijuana residue?
Yes.
I just wanted to clarify what you were talking about. All right. Mr. Lyons, if you wish to ask questions of Trooper Gordon, you can do so at this time. Just form it in a question, and then she will need to answer that.
Okay. Can you tell me, can you describe the location of where you were sitting when you saw me going too fast?
I was on Interstate 90 in Hanson County.
Left side, right side, center, where?
Crossover.
Okay. And what's the angle of deflection? What was the angle of deflection?
I'd object to the question in its current form, Your Honor. It doesn't refer to angle of deflection for what?
What was the angle of deflection and your radar reading?
I don't know what angle of deflection what you're talking about.
You're not aware that when you're using a radar gun, that when you're off to the side, that you have to compensate for the angle of deflection in order to receive a right speed, because when you're at an angle, it doesn't give a proper return. You're not aware of this?
Okay, I think what you're asking is what my position was in the crossover.
Yep. Did you figure out the angle of deflection?
Can you explain in response to his question where your vehicle was located, which direction it was pointing in regards to his vehicle? That would first set up an answer perhaps to his question.
Okay. I was,
No. I apologize, Your Honor, but I object. That is not what my intention. There is a specific degree of angle that you're supposed to figure out so you can compensate for the 1 or 2 miles per hour faster that you're going to get a return because there's a deflection. You're supposed to figure that.
Deflection?
I'm sorry, repeat that.
You were sitting dead center in the middle of the road when you radared me.
Okay, so there isn't a deflection per se. If I'm sitting in a crossover and I have my front stationary radar in an opposite direction.
Okay, and let's go back then. How were you sitting in the what did you call it?
In the crossover.
How were you sitting in the crossover?
Okay, I was in the crossover facing to the west. So if I was running my radar stationary in the opposite direction mode, I would be running speed from cars traveling to the east.
So you and another car were not sitting this way on the highway?
I wasn't facing north or south. I was.
You weren't sitting with anybody either? Were you sitting with anybody, other officers on the highway?
No.
No? Okay. So that still takes me back to the angle of deflection. Did you compensate for the angle of deflection? Because if you're sitting in the center of the road, there's an angle. Not if you're aiming right at me. To get a proper reading on a radar, you have to be aiming right in front of a person, and the object has to be coming toward you. Were you sitting there?
All right, I understand his question.
She's saying 85, and if I get 2 on that, and then I got 2 on her not doing the tune, then we're at 80 miles an hour, which I state clearly on my video that's what I was doing in cruise control.
And let's slow down a second, Mr. Lyons.
Okay.
I understand your question, but you're asking a question about whether she's sideways, north or south. I believe, but we'll ask her to clarify, she said she was facing east and west. Trooper, would that be correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, where was the front of the vehicle?
The front of my vehicle was facing to the west.
To the west. Okay. Were you all right next to the shoulder, or were you way over in the center of it?
I wasn't. Okay, so for reading a radar gun or detector, you don't just take in the number into account. There's other things that take into account.
Okay.
Like tracking.
Okay.
And what that means is, so you get a reading, and by looking at speeds of other vehicles, it's not just the one reading that's a determinant of all.
Okay, can you describe the vehicles that were around me at the time then?
No, I can't. Not right now. I cannot.
Did you mark it in a report? Do you have a report? I heard you did not have a report. That's what I heard before. Is there any report on this?
Do I have a report prepared? No.
Do you have any evidence besides your testimony?
Video.
Okay. And that shows everything, the tracking and everything.
The video is only for the stop itself.
Okay. But that shows everything that happened, right?
For what?
For the whole stop, from the time you turn your lights on to the end of it.
Yeah.
Okay? It does?
That would be a question that you would need to ask the
Did
state's
you
attorney
familiarize
to review the
yourself
video.
with this, the video? Did you familiarize yourself with this video for today?
No.
No? Wouldn't it have been pertinent to do this?
Is that a question about the case, or,
I mean, yeah, sure. You're trying to put my life and my money on the line. Don't you think you should have got the facts straight?
I'd object to the line of questioning, Your Honor, as relating to an item is not even an evidence.
It's
At this point, I think she indicated she didn't review the video.
okay. Then is there a report that you can refer to clarify all of these things? The vehicles around me, the tracking history. Is there any of that stuff? Does anybody have that?
I object to that question. It's already been asked and answered.
Well, the objection's overruled, but I want you to clarify. Trooper, is there any written report?
I do not have a written report.
Okay.
Okay. Is it your position that you are qualified to make a legal conclusion out on the road?
I object. That's a misstatement of the record.
How so?
I think it's overruled at this point. Let's at this point stick to factual questions.
This is a factual question, sir. Because you are granted a certain authority, do you feel that you are qualified to come to a legal conclusion? Is that a better question?
In reference to whether there's been a violation of the law,
No, a crime.
a crime, okay? Because can I add that to the end
Sure.
of your question?
Sure.
Okay. So do you feel qualified to come to a legal conclusion as to whether a crime was committed?
Yes.
And what makes you qualified to do that?
My training as a law enforcement officer.
Okay. What does the Constitution do?
I'd object. That's irrelevant.
That's-
How is it irrelevant? Why do you guys keep saying that the Constitution is irrelevant?
The objection is sustained at this point. We're not dealing with constitutional issues.
I'm trying to prove that this witness is not qualified to even be an American citizen. I'll prove it right here.
And that would be an irrelevant line of questioning.
If she's not qualified to be an American citizen, she's not qualified to make a legal conclusion.
That is irrelevant, and we're not going to go down that line of questioning, sir.
Okay, so what I'm getting here, what I'm starting to understand here is that she has no evidence, and we're going to continue this case. She's committed perjury already once, so...
Sir, I don't believe anything's come forward that she has committed perjury. Her testimony
her
is...
testimony is going to prove it.
Just wait.
Okay.
Her testimony has been of the facts as she recalls them about this incident. She has testified that she...
And the facts are seriously lacking in this case, sir.
I have to make that determination.
Okay, but
But
the worry in my case is that this guy, his offer was for me to plea to something I didn't even do.
And you were not required to do that. That was an option, and you did not want to do that.
But if he would have done the paraphernalia charge, I might have thought about that.